All right. Our favorite drunk Secretary of Defense is one of my favorite memes about him. I don't always include reporters in unsecure war plan group chats, but when I do, it's because I'm incompetent and drunk. Um, it's really quite a question now. The betting markets are taking on how much Trump has invested his pride in not firing Pete Hegseth versus how apparent it is that this job is far too big for the man that he put in this position. As horrific as the job is, he's not up to the job on its own terms or any terms, clearly. And here's a very good example of that. We're going to revisit this because it never gets old. Pete Hegseth's kids have that dad's drunk again trauma face. Even though it's funny that he shaved one side but not the other, imagine having to live with this emotional train wreck. Now, this was after a second Signal leak had come out where he included his wife on a Signal group chat about war plans, and he was asked about it at the Easter egg roll on the White House lawn.
My dad and my kids, because, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters.
Look at the sideburn.
This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with access to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much. Have spoken to the president, and we are going to continue fighting on the same page all the way.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Wow. Does anybody have a beer?
Yeah.
So there is new news in staff Firegate. Pentagon in chaos. You might remember this from last month after Hegseth sheds 4 staffers in one day. Now, those staffers put out a joint statement. They were Dan Caldwell, Colin Carroll, and Darren Selnick. The 4th one didn't actually get fired from the Pentagon. He got transferred to another job. We are incredibly disappointed by the manner in which our service at the Department of Defense ended. Unnamed Pentagon officials have slandered our character with baseless attacks on our way out the door. All 3 of us served our country honorably in uniform. For 2 of us, this included deployments to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And based on our collective service, we understand the importance of information security and worked every day to protect it. At this time, we still have not been told what exactly we were investigated for, if there is still an active investigation, or if there was even a real investigation of leaks to begin with. While this experience has been unconscionable, we remain supportive of the Trump-Vance administration's mission to make the Pentagon great again and achieve peace through strength. We hope in the future to support those efforts in different capacities. So Dan Caldwell, one of the accused, actually went on Tucker to talk about the real reasons why he might have been fired.
It's very obvious to me, having far fewer details than you have, that you're one of the people who is perceived to be standing in the way of a regime change war in Iran, and that was kind of your crime. That seems obvious to me.
I think it's complicated. There's other layers to this, but based on what has been happening since then, I think that is a factor, is that I think, and it is being weaponized against me, is I think that they want to also go after, and I think that I can't say this with certainty, but just speculating, that had somebody in the White House not said, okay, we need to put a stop to this, there probably been more people treated the same way that Colin, Darren Selnick, and myself were treated.
Okay, so old whiskey breath went on Fox while all this was blowing up to defend his decision.
Mr. Secretary, did you find this out, or did they come to you? Because I know
You know these guys. Like these are the guys you picked, especially Caldwell, and they worked for you for your previous job before you got over to Fox. And they said that they have not been asked about their phones. They weren't asked about communications. They didn't go through, they didn't take a polygraph. So why would they be let go and not be investigated?
Well, Brian, when there were a series of serious leaks at the Pentagon, which there were, Panama Canal plans, Elon Musk's visit, you name it, any number of things, and there's 4, 5, 6, 7 things. We said enough is enough. We're gonna launch a leak investigation, which we did, which was then handed over to OSI, which is the special investigators here at DOD. Right. Through that investigation, information was surfaced, which created a responsibility to take action. That's how it works when you when you actually investigate leaks, Brian. So it's easy to say, oh, we asked everybody and everybody said they're good. Or you can take it seriously and say, we don't think leaks are okay at this department. Right. So we're going to investigate. And when we investigate, we'll take it anywhere it leads. And unfortunately, Brian, to your point, and again, if 1 or 2 of these guys is exonerated after an investigation, great. That's what investigations are for. But we took it seriously. It led to some unfortunate places, people I have known for quite some time, but it's not my job to protect them. It's my job to protect national security, the President of the United States, and let the investigation go where it is. So when that evidence is gathered sufficiently, and this has all happened very quickly, it will be handed over to DOJ, and those people will be prosecuted if necessary.
It feels like Hegseth and Jordan Peterson should go to a men's retreat and scream and cry and get whatever nervous energy they have in their system out, because they always seem like they're about to crack.
Right.
They always seem like they're right on the verge of some horrible secret pouring out of them.
Right.
White House stunned as Hegseth inquiry brings up illegal wiretap claims. Now, if you look at this story and you look at what Caldwell said, that he thought it was the White House that put a stop to this chaos of paranoia, it's seeming paranoia in Hegseth's Defense Department. If you look at this story, it seems like there's probably some truth to that. And what Hegseth's claiming about the evidence they had, as Caldwell and his fellow co-firees speculated, it looks like the whole thing's just total bullshit, which was pretty apparent from the beginning. The White House has lost confidence in a Pentagon leak investigation that Pete Hegseth used to justify firing 3 top aides last month after advisors were told that the aides had supposedly been outed by an illegal warrantless NSA wiretap. The extraordinary explanation alarmed the advisors, who also raised it with people close to J.D. Vance, because such a wiretap would almost certainly be unconstitutional and an even bigger scandal than a number of leaks. Okay, so you understand? This is so illegal, it was too illegal for these fucking people. These people considered it too far over the line for them. But the advisors found the claim to be untrue and complained that they were being fed dubious information by Hegseth's personal lawyer, Tim Parlatore, who had been tasked with overseeing the investigation. Ship of crackpots. The episode, as recounted by 4 people familiar with the matter, marked the most extraordinary twist in the investigation, examining the leak of an allegedly top secret document that outlined options for the U.S. military to reclaim the Panama Canal to a reporter. The advisors were stunned again when Parlatore denied having told anyone about an illegal NSA wiretap himself and maintained that any information he had was passed on to him by others at the Pentagon. Wow. Don't you feel safe? Don't you feel safe knowing these people are at the top of the world's most powerful military? The leak was first attributed internally to Hegseth's senior advisor, Dan Caldwell, who was escorted out of the Pentagon and fired last month alongside 2 other aides, Hegseth's former Deputy Chief of Staff, Darren Selnick, and the Deputy Defense Secretary's Chief of Staff, Colin Carroll. But the illegal wiretap claim and Caldwell's denials fueled a breakdown in trust between the Pentagon and the White House, where the Trump advisors tracking the investigation have privately suggested they no longer have any idea about who or what to believe. Are you telling me that you put an erratic drunk in charge of the military and it's leading to results where you don't know what the hell's happening over at the Pentagon? I can't believe it worked out that way. Holy crap. It's almost like you should have more qualifications than Trump liked watching you on Fox to lead the Pentagon. Who knew? In particular, one Trump advisor recently told Hegseth that he did not think Caldwell or any of the fired aides had leaked anything, and that he suspected the investigation had been used to get rid of aides involved in the infighting with his first chief of staff, Joe Casper. And that's what it looked like when we covered it the first time. It sounded like Mean Girls having a bitch fight. The fraught situation is sure to increase pressure on Hegseth ahead of a Senate hearing next month, and more broadly for his office, which has been roiled by the leak investigation that has now continued for nearly a month with no new evidence or referral to the FBI. Remember how confident he was on that Fox interview? I mean, fake confident.
Yeah.
You know, he reads as a weak man trying to assert confidence. The fallout has left Hegseth with no chief or deputy chief of staff as he relies on 6 senior advisors to run his front office, which is involved in setting the direction of the Defense Department that has a budget of nearly $1 trillion and oversees more than 2 million troops. Well, that doesn't sound unsafe at all to have the Pentagon being run this way. And while Hegseth's former junior military aide, Ricky Burria, has in effect assumed the job of the chief of staff, the White House has blocked Hegseth from giving him the job permanently on account of his limited experience and role in internal office drama. You know, well, keep going, guys. Keep going. So you feel this guy is not qualified to be the permanent chief of staff because he lacks experience and he's a source of drama. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, you might arrive at the person that you put in charge of the whole department. At first, Parletor rebuffed the attempts to obtain the underlying evidence, noting it was inappropriate for the executive branch to insert itself into an ongoing criminal investigation that he said could still yield charges. But towards the end of April, according to what the Trump advisor shared inside the White House, Parletor suggested that there had been a warrantless wiretap on Caldwell's phone. Parletor has denied making such a claim when confronted by associates and has generally maintained during the investigation that he has only passed along information briefed to him by others. Reached by phone on Monday, Parletor referred questions to the Pentagon press office. I mean, this whole story is just such a damning expose of what a bunch of bumbling crackpots you have in this administration. So basically, you had this lawyer who is Hegseth's personal lawyer, by the way, that he gave an official role as a legal advisor at the Pentagon. You know, he got some pressure. Well, you know, these guys went on Tucker, and you know, Trump likes Tucker, and he watched it, and he asked, "What the hell's going on?" Oh, well, we wiretapped him. What do you mean we wiretapped him? Well, we called the guys at the NSA. You know, that's really illegal. I mean, I heard they wiretapped him. This is what's going on over there. These are the people running the country. It is a confederacy of criminals. And you could say that it's always a confederacy of criminals, but this is a particularly bumbling, lawless bunch. And for the Trump administration to be aghast at the illegality of something in their administration, they don't have a lot of regard for crossing legal lines and telling the establishment to go screw itself. Although I suspect it's also because, honestly, and it mentions this elsewhere in the article, that Trump did see that Tucker interview. And I think that's probably why they care, because Trump watched that and was like, what the hell is Hegseth doing? The guy, why'd he fight it? He's making us look bad, right? That's why they're that concerned about it. I'm sure if they really thought that these guys were the leakers, they wouldn't worry too much about how they got there.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that the criteria for a cabinet position this time around, much more so than last time, is loyalty to Trump, right? So you figure,
Right.
okay,
And
Hegseth
and a Fox gig.
and a Fox gig, but I mean those are kind of one and the same, right? Now you might say, okay, well, given all this, they have to fire Hegseth, right? I mean, like how much longer can they keep him around? I mean, really,
I
he's
think they
such a
gotta fire
drag.
him. Yeah.
Here's the problem, though, and this is probably why they're a little reluctant to, and this is going to be, I think, a running problem for them as these 4 years drag on, is that if your number one criteria is loyalty, then your first string, you kind of really got to invest a lot in your first string, because whoever
Right.
you bring in as a substitute knows they were just the backup, right? So they are, by definition, not
Yeah.
as loyal to you as the first guy who you chose. Now, notice the one guy who they bounced was the neocon infiltrator, Mike Waltz, right?
Right.
And even
Yeah.
him, they didn't really bounce. They made him ambassador to the
Right.
UN because they moved
Right.
Stefanik around. But yeah, like a loyalist like Hegseth, I think he has a lot more rope than, say, you know, Jeff Sessions did when he was the first AG, Rex Tillerson did, because he's there for his loyalty, right? They didn't just
Well,
pick him
you
off a
also
page. They picked him because they trust him to be loyal to Trump. And so I think that gets them a lot more rope because, yeah, you would think by now they got to see him as a liability. How could they not? I mean, it seems, according to this reporting, that they do. That doesn't even seem to be speculation.
I think it's also difficult to find somebody who's qualified to take the job, more qualified than Hegseth, who's not also a bottom feeding crackpot, as
Right.
is what populates Trump's entire administration. Because you have to be shameless to be
Right.
willing to work in an administration like this. You have to be like Gabbard,
Right, like
where
Tulsi,
you're
right.
willing. Yeah, you have to be like Tulsi, where you're willing to just go back on everything you ever claimed to believe in at the boss's whim. You have to be that kind of person. There are very
Right.
few people who are literally qualified, really qualified to run the Pentagon. Whatever we think of the Pentagon, it's a complicated job. It's horrible. It's, managing this evil military machine. It requires a certain skill set. How many people really have that skill set who are going to be willing to give Trump a handy every time he gets in front of a camera?
Exactly. That is the sticky question for sure. Hey, thanks for watching our video. We're currently raising money to produce our documentary film on the Uhuru movement. Go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents to chip in.
Every dollar you give goes towards the project. We do not take any kind of salary on these. We mostly live on Gatorade when we're on the road, so even solid food is iffy, just enough to get by. But we do not take any pay for this. Every dollar actually goes into what we need to shoot the project. The Uhuru movement is a subject that really deserves more exposure. Everybody heard about it through the court case, and that was an important thing to elevate. But they've done incredible community work demonstrating a different way that is socialist and not dependent on the government at the same time, which a lot of people don't even realize that still exists in the tradition of the Black Panther food and education programs. And to show there is such a strong community like that with such strong leadership is really important, particularly at this historical moment.
Yeah, so we're really excited about doing the project, but we need your help. So go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents to chip in. Thanks very much for your support.
Please clap.